welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I want to provide a trading recap on a play I took on Shopify. So this was a swing trade that I made back in July of last year. I've gotten quite a few questions about how I swing trade and how I analyze the charts, and it really just depends on the setup. So for this video, I'll give y'all a quick rundown on my analysis, which is pretty simplistic for this trade. I'll also walk y'all through the back test, and then I'll end the video with just my overall thoughts. So yeah, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So first things first, I always start with top-down analysis, and what this simply means is that you want to start on a higher time frame. So in order to do that, I'm literally going to go ahead and click on this time frame for the 2 minute. I'm going to drop it all the way down to the 5-year 1 day. Now my reasoning for doing this is that I want to get the historical analysis so that you guys can see my justification on why I chose to take this trade. Now to start, the first thing I always like to consider is how long that I'll stay within a trade. So for me, knowing that this was going to be a trade that I wanted to take for like 5 to 6 months, I knew exactly what I was looking for in terms of seasonality. So when I tell y'all that my analysis on this particular trade was super simplistic, I just went ahead and analyzed the charts for what I've seen for Q3 and Q4 for the last 5 years on Shopify, and I just took that information and evaluated what will work best for a swing trade. So y'all have heard me mention before that the stock market usually fluctuates within patterns. So you'll generally see uptrends and downtrends throughout the year. Of course, we know that Shopify is in the technology sector, specifically within the e-commerce industry. And we know, of course, it's one of the leading platforms for retail sales. So within this and understanding this information and knowing that people do a lot of shopping throughout the holidays, I was specifically analyzing Q3 and Q4 for each year. Now, I can mention that I have traded this same setup over the last 5 years as well. So this is pretty consistent in terms of me understanding the profitability and then also understanding seasonality when it comes to trading Shopify. So let me just go ahead and show you what I did. Again, it's very simplistic, nothing super special about this. Again, I entered this trade in July of last year, so let me show you what I did in terms of analyzing the charts. So I started with looking back at 2020 and 2021. So we're going to look and see what the stock, how it was performing during the summertime. We can see around July, the stock was about $92. And then moving forward to about October of 2020, we can see that the stock was actually at about $93 for some points. We move forward again, looking at November and kind of like the December range, we can see that the stock actually rose up to about $110. And then at the very end of the year, we can see that the stock was at least $117. So for me, I took that information as a confirmation that the stock actually rose up during the holiday season. And it makes perfect sense because people do a lot of online shopping and they're seeking to purchase these types of gifts on websites like Shopify because we know that it's one of the leading brands as mentioned. So that's just pretty basic knowledge on understanding how the stock is going to move, of course, during this specific season. So we're going to go ahead and look at 2021. In July, of course, again, we see that the stock was at about $141. And then if we move forward, we can see that the stock was at $138. It actually rose up to have its all-time high in November at $176. And then we saw a slight dip around November, December towards the end. We can see that the stock was at still about $146. So again, this is validated because we can see that obviously towards the beginning of the year, in like February, March, April, this range here, that the stock was at about, 112. It rose all the way up to the 176. And we can see that, again, this is around the holiday time. So we saw that uptrend. Although it was a bit choppy, you can still see the pattern continue to persist in it being in this uptrend around the holiday season. So moving forward to 2022, we're going to go ahead and look at October. We can see here it was at an all-time low at $23.63. And then if we move forward to about November, December of that year, you can see that the stock actually rose up to about $38, $39. So at this point, I think y'all pretty much catch the pattern of what I'm saying is that Q3, Q4, Shopify tends to have a spike in the actual share price. So let's go ahead and look the same thing for 2023. We're going to go ahead and look at October. We can see here that the stock was about $48. And then of course, if we move forward to November, December, the stock rose up to about the $70, $75 range, even the highest at about $80. So now moving forward to last year, of course, I made this actual trade in July, and the stock was sitting at about $60 to $65 within that range. So y'all can essentially assume that I was looking at the trend to continue for what I had seen in the past previous 5 years. And because of that anticipation, I already knew to have the stock price projected to rise up from this $60 range. And I knew I wanted to hold these contracts for at least 6 months because, again, July being the summertime, I wanted to hold it past the holiday season. So yeah, y'all, that's pretty much my justification for this. You guys can see I do not have any indicators pulled up on my chart at all. There's no EMAs. I didn't need the SMAs, the MACD. I didn't need any of that. All I needed was to look historically at what the price was doing over the course of the last 5 years, and then I looked to see what specifically was happening during the seasons. Again, Shopify being a stock that people are always going to utilize for online retail, it just allowed for an easier precision of understanding exactly what the stock would do as it progresses throughout the year. So honestly, y'all, there's really not a deep explanation of things that goes beyond that for me. Without having to get like too deep into technical analysis, it really just was me understanding the trend and then just continuing to follow with that pattern just based upon understanding what has happened in the past. So there was simply not really a real reason for me to need other forms of confirmation. Now, I'm not saying that y'all should follow in my footsteps with doing that, because I do think that you should always have different levels of confluence in order to enter into a trade. But for me, I understood exactly what I was doing with this because I had been doing it for the past 5 years on Shopify. So nothing major as far as being like a drastic trade or anything that was super risky on my end. It just made perfect sense for what I was looking for a setup. Now, I will say ideally when I'm placing my swing trades, I do look at it from smaller time frames, just depending upon what stock I'm trading and looking at what the statistical analysis would be based upon being a high probability trade. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now that we have that contextual background and understanding of historically how I analyze the trade, I want to go ahead and put this within the backtest so you guys can see how the numbers actually played out. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and hit this on demand button right here at the top right. And you'll see the Think on Demand Enabled, this little confirmation. I'm going to click on OK. And we're going to actually go back to July of 2024 when I actually placed this trade. So let's go ahead and go back to July. And we're going to go ahead and select July 12th, a couple days after my birthday, and we're going to select Go. Give it a second, it'll load up, and here it is. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and look under the Trade tab here. I'm going to go ahead and drop the option chain down to March, simply because this is when I wanted the DTE to be set for this trade, so 252 days out at the time. And again, we see that in July of 2024 last year, Shopify was trading for $65.54. And y'all know I made a previous video discussing trading within the money. So of course I went ahead and did that. If it's at $65 and you want to trade within the money, it needs to be below that for calls. So I'm going to go ahead and select this $60 strike price here. I'm going to have it set for, I believe I had 5 contracts at the time. I'm going to set for a market order just for example purposes. I'm going to click on confirm and send, and we will send this off. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and click on the monitor tab so you guys can see how this played out. And you'll see here under the orders for fulfillment, it has it as a single order with the 5 contracts. And you guys can also click on instrument. If this little drop down here, click on the ticker symbol and you'll be able to see the actual play. And I didn't mention this in my last video when I talked about trading in the money, but you can also see that they have it marked ITM right here for in the money contracts. So if you're ever wondering, that's going to be marked here for you to be able to see it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the P&L. Obviously, it was $2.50, very low, but this was a swing trade. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward. So I'm going to hit the calendar, this little drop down here. We're going to go ahead and move to January of this year of 2025. And we're going to go ahead and select the 15th of January. Around the same time is completely fine. I will say I did make this call out within my Discord. So if anybody's wondering, I'll leave a link to it down below. I'm going to go ahead and click on go, and y'all will see the P&L difference here. So now you can see it's at $15,360 for the P&L. And again, that's just with me purchasing 5 contracts at this $60 call strike price here. And you can also see the P&L percentage was at 221%. And that just signifies that this was a pretty solid setup. Obviously, the play made sense for what I was looking for, and the return on investment for me was well worth it. Now, I do want to mention again that this is just one strategy I use from time to time when I'm swing trading. And this is really just specific to stocks like Shopify during the holiday season. Now, I can and will make future videos where I show you guys how I swing on a shorter term basis, because obviously I held this trade for a little over 6 months. So I can show you guys what it looks like to do short-term swings in a future video as well. But yeah, y'all, for the most part, you guys can see the numbers again for yourself. You can see how this specific trade played out for me. For the most part, that's really what it was for this trade. Nothing super special. And again, it wasn't super technical as far as the analytics of it. Just a very simplistic trade, understanding historical analysis, and that was really all it took for me to be able to be profitable on this. And honestly, this is what I like to define as passive income, because once you invest in this specific type of trade one time, you don't even have to watch the charts. Like, I think I checked on this trade maybe like once every few weeks. It wasn't anything crazy where I was like watching the charts every single day. It just literally was a trade. I entered it. I already knew I would take profits after the holiday season was over, and that was pretty much it. Very simple, straight to the point, nothing extra. Oh, and real quick, for anyone who is wondering, I always recommend that you have at least a stop loss and a take profit target for any trade that you enter. So don't follow what I did specifically within this back test. Definitely make sure that you set a stop loss just in case the trade does go against you. There's no guarantee that Shopify will just spike and have a rise. Historically, it has done that, but there's no guarantee that it'll happen every single time. So just to protect your capital, please make sure you set a stop loss if you were to enter into a trade similar to this and you let it ride for 6 months. Make sure you have an actual stop loss set. That way you, again, just protect your money. But yeah, y'all, that'll pretty much do it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If y'all have any questions, just feel free to leave a comment down below. Y'all can also DM me or email me. I thank you so much for watching. And also thank y'all for all the love and support. And of course, I'll see y'all in my next one.